Hello and welcome to my video on Germany as another good example. Today, we're going to discuss the strategic thinking behind war and conflict and why it's important to have a clear purpose, method, and end goal. Let's begin by looking at an example from history. In the early 1900s, Bismarck chastised the second German Kaiser for sending brand new German naval combatants into the Baltic. When asked why he did it, the Kaiser responded that he wanted the Russians to know Germany was strong. But Bismarck knew that this was the last thing they wanted to do, as it only reminded the Russians of their own weakness. Moving on to Britain and the British Navy, they questioned why they were building a big navy at all, to which they were told that it was necessary to be a great power like Britain. But Bismarck argued that there was no rational calculus behind this, and that there was no reason for conflict and war. This is a lesson we can apply to the current situation in Ukraine. There is no reason for conflict, and we should all be interested in bringing it to a close. Otherwise, Ukraine will be destroyed, with millions of Ukrainians fleeing with nowhere to go. This will harm Europe beyond belief, and there is nothing noble or glorious about destroying a country. Looking back at history again, we see that in 1914, Britain involved themselves in a war that had nothing to do with them. They could have stayed out of the war and brokered a peace in 1916 that would have saved millions of lives and prevented the Second World War from happening. But instead, the press stoked up the war, and it cost the British Empire 1 million dead and 2 million injured. The lesson here is that we need statesmen who can see the bigger picture and think strategically. We need to have a purpose, a method, and an end goal in mind when it comes to conflict and war. Unfortunately, in today's world, we often overestimate ourselves in conventional terms. We talk about wars of choice, but most wars are unnecessary. We need to think about what we want things to look like after the conflict is over, and consider the history, culture, and interests of the nations we are dealing with. Right now, in Ukraine, there is no negotiation or hope for a negotiated end. The only end we see coming is the end of Ukraine, which is not in anyone's interest. We need to start thinking strategically and find a way to broker a peace before it's too late. How the media has been used to drum up support for wars, and what we can do to combat this kind of misinformation. Body. Propaganda has been used for centuries as a tool to influence public opinion. It involves the use of biased or misleading information to manipulate people's beliefs and attitudes. In times of war, propaganda is often used to rally support for the cause, demonize the enemy, and promote nationalistic ideals. One of the most notable examples of propaganda in wartime is the use of posters and advertisements to encourage people to enlist in the military. During World War I, for example, posters featuring patriotic slogans and images of soldiers in action were plastered all over cities and towns. These posters were designed to make people feel that it was their duty to join the fight and defend their country. Another common tactic used by governments is the censorship of the media. During times of war, governments often restrict the press from reporting on certain events or information that could be deemed harmful to the war effort. This can make it difficult for people to form their own opinions about the war and can limit the amount of information that is available to them. However, propaganda isn't just limited to wartime. It can also be used in peacetime to promote political ideologies and to sway public opinion on a variety of issues. This can be seen in the way that political campaigns are run, with candidates using slogans and catchy phrases to appeal to voters. So, what can we do to combat propaganda? One of the most important things is to be aware of the fact that it exists. We need to be critical of the information that we're presented with and be willing to fact-check and verify sources. It's also important to seek out a variety of viewpoints and to be open to different perspectives. Another important tool is education. By learning about propaganda and how it works, we can become better equipped to recognize it when we see it. This can involve everything from studying history to taking media literacy courses. We need to be active participants in the media. This means supporting independent media outlets, writing letters to the editor, and sharing our own opinions and perspectives online. By being engaged and informed citizens, we can help to counteract the effects of propaganda and shape a more honest and accurate public discourse. Now we'll be talking about the future of warfare, how technology is changing the nature of warfare, and the ethical implications of these changes. Over the course of human history, warfare has evolved and transformed in countless ways. From the days of hand-to-hand combat to modern-day aerial and cyber warfare, the tools and tactics of warfare have constantly been in flux. However, in recent years, the pace of technological change has accelerated dramatically, leading to new and unprecedented challenges for militaries around the world. One of the most significant changes in warfare has been the rise of drone technology. Drones, or unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, have become increasingly prevalent in military operations over the past few decades. These unmanned aircraft can be used for reconnaissance, surveillance, and even targeted assassinations. While they offer many advantages, such as reduced risk to human pilots, they also raise a number of ethical concerns. For example, there is the potential for civilian casualties in drone strikes, and some argue that the use of drones could lead to a dehumanization of warfare. Another area of technological advancement is artificial intelligence, AI. In the future, AI could be used to control drones and other autonomous weapons, making it possible to conduct military operations with little or no human intervention. While this could potentially save lives, it also raises a host of ethical questions. For example, if a robot kills a human on the battlefield, who is responsible? How do we ensure that the use of AI in warfare is consistent with our values and principles? Cyber warfare is another area where technology is changing the nature of conflict. With the rise of the internet and digital technologies, militaries around the world are increasingly focusing on developing cyber capabilities. Cyber attacks can be used to disable critical infrastructure, disrupt communication networks, and even cause physical damage. However, the use of cyber warfare also raises ethical concerns, such as the potential for civilian casualties and the difficulty of attributing attacks to a specific actor. The future of warfare is likely to be shaped by rapid technological change. While these advances offer many advantages, they also raise a host of ethical questions and challenges. As we continue to develop new technologies for military use, it's important that we also consider the ethical implications of these changes and work to ensure that our actions are consistent with our values and principles. Thank you for watching, and please leave your thoughts and comments below.